Start the recording. Good. Looks like we're good to go. All right, everybody, I am here today. I am Coach Carter, and I am here with two of my favorite former clients. I know I always say that, but this is Rachel and Shelby. They are with Dive in Digital. They run a digital marketing agency, and I'll let them tell you more about the amazing work that they do. But I asked them to sit down, and they were gracious enough to take time out of their crazy schedules to make time to speak to what our coaching experience did for them. For me, it was really a huge honor because I hadn't worked with co-founders before. And it was a first for me. I was really honest about that and upfront. And to be honest, I don't know if I'd ever do it again. Not because my experience was not great, but because these two are amazing. Like literally, they impress me almost every week with the amount of communication and integrity and skill that they had. And I think working with any other co-founders would just be a bit of a letdown. So anyways, Rachel and Shelby would love to hear more about your experience in our coaching time together. Any background that you feel would be helpful to provide on your business, or should we dive into some fun questions?
Dive into fun questions. Also, thank you so much for that huge compliment. We'll probably get into this, but I think context-wise is Shelby and I had been, I guess, about 3 years into the business and really wanted to see substantial growth. And at that point, we needed someone to come along the journey with us to kind of get some new, fresh perspective. We had kind of been working with the same people or each other for 3 years. We needed some new energy, new perspectives, and that is actually what we got. But that's what started our relationship.
Cool. Yeah, no, there was definitely some synchronicity from day one. We met at a networking event, and immediately both of us were just like, we got to do this. I don't know what it's going to take, but we got to do this.
Yes.
Cool. So let's dive in. Before we work together, in your own words, and either one can answer any of these, what would you say your biggest challenge was?
I would say the biggest challenge that we were having before working together is because we're a co-founder team in professional services, really what was happening is we weren't really running a cohesive business. We were basically both operating with our own client load and then like collaborating on how we were managing that client load. So a huge aspect was in order to scale, it was crucial that the work became less attached to either one of us, which meant greater role identification, like what each of us is doing on the business, not just within it. And so working with you, so much of the time is really spent like energetically owning our individual roles and understanding why the other role is more appropriate for this person, and also creating those resources so that we could both kind of outline, this is how we're going to manage those individual roles, and really establishing boundaries. I think especially in partnerships, in any kind of partnerships, boundaries are really important, but especially in business partnerships where in terms of the boundary separation, Rachel and I each had done the roles that what either one of us was about to attempt to make our full-time job. And so I think that boundary division was really important and kind of holding space for those conversations about like what's scary about giving up control of this thing to one person, or even like it's something we just recently looked at, but one of the first things you had us do was outline all of the business tasks and assign whose job is that. And like we still will reference that of like as we're creating our team and building up more things, it's like, well, what are the boundaries? Whose role does this live? Do we need to change that? And just kind of opening up that communication. So really the hurdle was we both can't be doing the same job and this thing grow. And then the work became having really safe conversations about how we step into each of those roles and then building out the systems underneath each of those things.
That's amazing. It's kind of like if you're married and you have a child. At first, like either one can change the diaper, it's no big deal, but there may be conversations or moments later in life when one parent is better suited than the other parent. And recognizing that and kind of dividing that roles makes you twice as powerful, not half as present. And being able to establish that in a business is really helpful for people. So I appreciate you sharing that. Rachel, what do you think the outcome would have been if we had not worked together?
I think we would have stayed in probably that period I described in the beginning, stayed in that our own patterns a little longer, and that would have been detrimental. Like we really did need an impetus to, get uncomfortable. And so a lot of the work was, and I think that's okay. And that's like a huge learning. And I think that's a huge learning, whether you're a pair or a single business owner. I feel like, in so many entrepreneur podcasts and books and whatever, it's like, you got to be uncomfortable to grow or like whatever. And like, we know that, like we logically know that, but I actually don't think until you're really going after a goal and growing, you don't actually feel that. And so it's really, I think we create a really safe space and a really great learning ground for us to really figure out, what are the opportunities here? How much we could grow, really get out of our shell. So I think taking that leap with you really pushed us along that goal. And I think something you said too in regards to this is like all of this, I think just pushed us more to like stepping into our own power within the company. And again, even if you're not an owner, like sometimes you look at your to-do lists, and we're, looking at our to-do list of the business, and there's so much to solve and do and whatever. And it's like, sometimes we just need that moment of like, actually, if we just know what we need to do, then let's just like go do it. And that's what I feel like you empowered us to like own those specific things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I do think that a big reality of coaching and a lot of growth-oriented practices is at some point, you're either going to stay the same and then just quit because you're bored, or you will get to where you want to go. It's just the amount of time it's going to take. And I love that you use the word leap, because I feel like we were able to take you guys through an accelerated path, and that had its own challenges. And I'm sure it was very uncomfortable, but I love the trust that was built in that, especially watching that grow between the two of you, and just being able to know that the right hand had the right side of the business and the left hand had the left side. It made you more stable together and made the business more stable in the end. And that was just a beautiful thing. So appreciate you guys doing the hard work, doing the girly stuff. So we talked about kind of what would have happened at the end if we hadn't. Since we did, that was a great time. What was your biggest hesitation before we started the work together?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I remember asking the question. So when we came to you, we came with our like pile of stuff of like, hey, solve this, or like, hey, this is what we want to work on. And I had hesitations or just concern. And I felt like truly like I was like, being a good student coming into an interview with like good questions. And my question was, okay, well, you've never done what we did. So like, how could you help us? Which is like kind of rude. But, I had that concern, because you get in your head, especially as, we also work with business owners. The longer you're in a business, you're like, I'm the expert. I know my business. I'm trying so hard. I'm doing this. And so you can get these blinders up of like, no one understands, kind of like an emo moment. And I think, what was so great was like through our relationship is you actually have been, one of the best resources and tools to like, you've provided us with real actionable items, and it became really tactical, really quickly. And it really was, looking back now, since our relationship, reflecting on that was the inflection point of creating the systems. Like we're still working on them, but that had never happened before. And it was kind of like, we had been wanting to do this for a long time, but didn't have a blueprint, whatever. And you helped us create that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Did you have anything to add, Shelby? Or?
Well, I will just be blunt that my hesitation was the payment. And I do think that that's something that, just from like a business owner standpoint, Rachel and I have always really prioritized. I think as business owners, I think something from like the ego standpoint that we don't talk a lot about is you are literally creating your own universe. And what that means is you get to create an echo chamber that is like really safe and secure, and something that I think can be a massive detriment, that can make us all stubborn. It's like, well, I I know this best, I'm doing this best, and I get to create the rules of this universe that I get to work in every single day. And because of that, it's also like this fierce protection, like a child of like, like I don't, so it's just like investing in time feels arbitrary, I think, for a lot of business owners. I mean, very similar to even like personal therapy, right? It's like, I'm going to just invest in like time for me to think. Like that can seem counterproductive, especially at the phase of business that we were in, where it's like we haven't hit every financial target. We're aiming for certain sales goals, which I think can create even more tension and like putting that out. And I just think that was a hesitation point. But I think the bigger lesson in it is just you have to feel so confident that you're investing in yourself as much as you're hoping other businesses for us will invest in us and our services. And creating that time was absolutely necessary, primarily because without the time spent with you, we couldn't have freed up Rachel's time to go out and make more money. So it's like it all is really cyclical. And yeah, I think that that's just like a common fear.
Absolutely. And I think on the money front too, it's really the guarantee is on us. It's actually not on your performance. And if you purchase something, if you invest in something, I feel like an easier example is like courses you see online, right? Like you can buy the course is probably awesome. Like it probably is a really great course, but if you don't do it, like it's not going to work. And that's actually, that is the same thing in this dynamic is like, don't have fear around the money you're going to put down and that like you will provide. It's going to be, if you're putting that down, you are making a commitment to yourself that you're ready to change. You're ready to put in the work and you will find the results and the lessons out of that investment.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's definitely true. And I know we're all in the service industry and it's something that's hard for people because you don't want to let go of that money more because that money is tied to something else you want. Maybe it's a new car or something else shiny. But I think the big thing is when you invest in yourself and then you are forced to show up and do the work because the money's already gone, then you see results you wouldn't have seen anywhere else. And when you get those results, they last a lifetime. So I know it's been a while since we stopped working together. It's been like 5 or 6 months since then. I'm sure you guys have some huge wins to celebrate. Any of those that you feel like sharing just to help quantify kind of where you were before we started and any of the results you've had now that you feel like were directly related to the work we did together. And before you like answer, I want to say that none of this is because of me solely. I was the container and we helped get you from point A to point B, but you're the one who's grown this business. And I'm just so damn impressed with you two for how much you've done. So I just want to say that any kind of growth you've had is because you did the work. I was privileged enough to be there and teach you how, but you guys have done an amazing job. So let's celebrate you. What has been awesome in the last 6 months?
Yeah. The biggest celebration win on my end is seeing really Shelby's role develop and the systems be made. And this time last year, it was just Shelby and I and a host of awesome team members, but we were the only people that were client facing. And through the systems that Shelby has created, I am now able to be off of clients. And that is, so 2 huge milestones is I am no longer on clients. That was the goal, the big goal. And then second, and so my time can be like completely dedicated to business development. And then secondly is that we have it's night and day compared to what we had when we started to what we have now in regards to, pricing systems, operational systems, communication systems, like all of it, Shelby has created and it's deeply benefited our business.
Yeah, I think honestly, part of like owning your own business is like you hope that you're doing your dream job. And so I think for me, it's like allowing like to create space where we could give Rachel the room to like really go with where like her energy is naturally allocated, which is like making really good connections with people and telling them why they need our services and convincing them that we're the best partner. So it's just been like awesome to watch, obviously, her just like lean into that and be given the space to lean into that. But on the other side, it's like Rachel and I now have every single, like our average retainer rate for our team, for our contractor team, is around $1,600 a month. And that's just like to be creating that income potential for freelancers on a consistent basis, feels just like really, really good. And now we have 6 client leads who aren't Rachel and I, who are running client loads independently from Rachel and I. Yeah, it's like those are like little wins that we just never really talk about because we're so focused on the financial goals. But like it's really one of those things where I'm just like, yeah, like we like for, you know, at least 4 of our freelancers, we are at least half, if not more, of their ongoing lifestyle. And that's just like a really cool like microeconomy we've been able to create for people.
That's amazing to see you guys like super crushing it with so many people. I would sit here and talk to you all day, but I know that you all have many more calls because you're going to keep making sales and get yourself to be a multi-million-dollar business before the end of the year. So I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for the privilege of working with you and for your trust. And I can't wait to catch up with you again and hear how things are going.
Amazing.
Yes. Thank you, Carter.
Thank you, Carter.
Talk soon.
Bye.